In this lesson, I will show you how you can add text layers to our intro animation layout. To create a text layer, we can come up here to our application menu and choose layer, and then we can choose new, and we can choose new text layer. You see that there is also a keyboard shortcut, which is Ctrl, Alt, Shift and T, so it's a little bit of a complicated keyboard shortcut. So let's use the menu here, and then After Effects will create an empty text layer, and you see that here a cursor appears on our screen. Now let's type in some titles. So let's type in After, then I press Enter, Effects, and now make sure that you select the layer. With the layer selected, let's move over here to our character tab. So let's open this up. After Effects should have already activated the character tab right here. If it is not visible, then please come up here to Windows and choose the character tab here and activate it. In the character tab, I will move my keyboard display a little bit over here. In the character tab, we have a few options. First of all, you can change the font family. So you can come in here, click this arrow, and then you can choose one of the fonts that is already installed on your system. And you see that After Effects will change the font here in our composition. You can also change the font by typing in the name. So let's type in Arial here, and then we are back to our standard font. If you want to install new fonts and use them in After Effects, then make sure that you close the application, install the font to your system, and then reopen After Effects, and then the newly installed font will be available in your drop-down list here. The second option that we have here is to change some basic font styles. So if you open up this tab, you see that Arial includes 5 different styles, and we can change these styles here. So let's go back to our regular here. The next option that we have is we can change the color of our font. So if we activate the fill color here, and if you click again here, then you can specify a new color for the fill of your text. There's also the option to apply a stroke or an outline to your text, but I will talk about this in a second. So first of all, let's take a look at these settings right here. And here we have the text size. So I can change the text size here by clicking and dragging this value. I could of course also come in here and type in a certain value. So let's type in 90 for now and press enter. The next option is the leading of our text. So this specifies the distance between our lines. And there is an option to choose a few presets. And you can of course also just change the pixel size here. Let's go back to order here. The next option is to change the tracking of our text. The tracking is the space between our letters. Let's set this back to 0. And now we have the stroke option here. So if I apply a stroke now to our text, if I increase this value here to about, let's say we start with 15 pixels, you see nothing's happening, and this is because the stroke color is black now. So if I activate my stroke color here, and if I click again and specify a color, let's say something obvious like yellow, then you see After Effects will create a stroke around our title, and here you can change the width of this stroke. You also have the option to change the blending here. So we can say we want the fill to be visible over the stroke. If I change this to stroke over fill, you will see that now my fill color disappears because my stroke is so big that the fill colors are just not visible anymore. So let's change this back. And then you see we have a few more options here. So now I can come in here and I can say I want all fills be visible over my strokes. And if I select this, then you see now I have my letters visible, and the stroke is more or less like a background layer now. And I can change this, of course, to all strokes, all fills, then my fill will not be visible anymore. So let's set this back to 0 because I do not want to use any strokes here now. And let's change the color for now to white, the fill color. Now let's take a look at a few more options that we have here. First of all, we have a scaling, a vertical scaling of our letters, and we have a horizontal scaling of our letters. I press Ctrl C 2 times to undo these changes. Then I can specify the baseline of my text. This makes more sense if I select a few letters. So let's Ctrl C this. Let's come in here, and with our text tool still selected, let's select a few characters. So for example, just these 4 letters here. And now I can apply changes to only these letters. So I could now come in here, specify a new font, and of course I can change everything now, and this will apply only to these letters selected. So you can create different layouts on one text layer. And now I can show you what the baseline shift does. So now I could create something like this. Let's go back to Arial here, that makes more sense. And you could create such a capital letter, for example. The last option that we have here is called Tune, and I really do not know what it is for actually. So if I drag here, you see that nearly nothing is happening, that the tracking is changing a little bit, but yeah, I really never used this option. But yeah, it's there. So let me quickly undo the changes that my title is looking normal again. I press Ctrl+C a few times. Now everything is back to normal. Now I will select my text layer again so that everything is selected and that all the changes apply to all my letters. Here you have the option to create a bold version here. Then you have the option to create an italic version of your text. You can specify all caps so that all letters available are displayed in caps. You can choose the small caps option. All the letters are displayed in caps, but the smaller ones are smaller. You can activate this superscript option here, and you can also activate this subscript option here. So these are the basic options that you have for text in After Effects. So let's deactivate this. And let's take a look at another panel that we have right down here. And this is the paragraph panel. And the paragraph panel is also like in any text editing program. You can specify the alignment of your text. You can align it to the left, to the middle, and to the right. And then you can change or put in a few margins. Of course, this only makes sense if you are working with a text box or with some kind of more lined text. What I want to do now is I want to change the font. I want to use a specific font. Therefore, I again select my text layer and I type in Levi Brush, and Levi Brush is a font that I downloaded from the internet. If you do not have this brush, then you can go to Google and Google it, download it, install it on your system and use it. You can of course also use any other option or any other font that you have installed on your system, so it really doesn't matter, it's not that important. So I'm satisfied with the layout of my text right here. Maybe I want to activate the all caps option. Yeah, I think this is actually a little bit better. Now it's a bit big, so let's change this maybe to 80. I think this is pretty good. And I also want to apply a color, and I do not want full white. Maybe let's make this a little bit darker. We will apply a glow effect later on. So for now, let's choose something like this, and this is okay. Now what I want to do, I want to come up here to my selection tool. I can also press, of course, V on my keyboard. Let's use the keyboard shortcut. Let's grab our layer and let's position it a bit better. So I eyeball this so that it is approximately in the middle of the axis of my circle here, but shift it a little bit over like this. So that looks good because I want to apply a second text layer down here. Now quickly let's apply a second text layer. Therefore we choose our text tool, press Ctrl and T on our keyboard. And now let's simply click in here in the composition, and you see After Effects will create a new text layer. And now let's type in here for motion designers. I want to make this way smaller here now, so let's select our text layer. Let's come in here in our characters panel and let's choose first of all the myriad, I think I misspelled this, Myriad Pro font. Now I do not want this to be all caps, so I deactivate this option. I make this way smaller, something like, let's see, I think that 35 is quite a good value. Then I want to select only my first letter, my first word, the 4 here, and make this even smaller, just like so. 25 is good. And now with my layer selected again, with everything selected, I want to change the color. And this time I want to sample a color, so I use this eyedropper tool here. And let's say I want to sample this color here. Okay, let's select this. Let's change back to our selection tool by pressing V on the keyboard. Let's position this a little bit better. Like so. And let's say that I'm satisfied with this. I'm not quite satisfied, so I will select both layers by clicking on the first one, hold down Shift and select the second one. And now with my selection tool, drag them down a bit, just to make this layout a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm satisfied with the text layout here, and now it's time again to save my file. So I come here and I use the increment and save option. You can use the save or the save as option, whatever you prefer. In my case, I will use increment and save to create a new project version, and this is now project number 1_6. This is it with our title design. In the next video, we will take a look how we can animate basic properties in After Effects.